Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1645. The topic is mindset and the title is social media holding you back? Oh no. So we've talked a little bit about social media before. I'm actually going to ramble off a couple podcast numbers for you if you're interested in social media and interested in the topics, you can check these out. So we did podcast 1605, so not too many ago. It was a mindset podcast titled Social Media Impact on Fitness. And somebody asked my opinion of how I thought social media was changing kind of the fitness industry, the fitness world. So that was fun. We have podcast 893, which is actually a trainer education podcast. We used to do those on a regular basis. We have like over 150 of them. So trainer education, it was social media marketing. Who should I market to? So that's a really fun question. We also have podcast 874, which is a nutrition podcast, which is social media versus reality. Talking about, everybody has these quinoa, kale, salad things for breakfast, and it's like, I'm not buying 17,000 ingredients for one meal. So what does it look like on social media to eat healthy versus what does it look like in reality? And then way back when, podcast 221, we did a mindset podcast titled Overcoming Stress in reference to social media. So really fun stuff. We've touched on this a little bit before. So why are we touching on it again? I have a client. We were talking back and forth, and they are from Costa Rica, which is really cool, super exciting. So I'm very blessed to get to work with people all over the world. I have clients in over definitely seven countries. I have to recount, but it's super fun. Really love it. And one of the things that we were talking about in there, every client I work with, like one-on-one client, we do an online journal so they can write me questions and thoughts and ideas, and I write back every week. So they were saying that they were feeling discouraged. They recognize that they are making progress. They're reaching their goals. But what they said was that every time she reaches a goal, she kind of feels like she's actually getting further behind. And it's kind of funny because we were talking about that, like how that's kind of an odd thing is you make progress but yet you're falling behind. And she said what happens is, like, as she's able to achieve things, she wonders what more she can achieve. And then she sees all these things out on social media and she feels like, well, if I wanted to do that, like, how long would that take? If I want to do that, how long would that take? And she said she's feeling like she has an increasing sense that she started too late and she's not going to be able to accomplish everything she wants. And we talked about how that was just so odd considering she's making great progress. If we excluded everything else, if you just look at data and how she looks in her photos, she's super happy. And she said that, so thankfully, yay for me. But she's very happy. And she said that she can feel that it's social media that's kind of messing with her a little bit. And in some way, she feels discouraged by social media. There's just always somebody that looks a little sexier, that's a little bit stronger, that's a little bit bigger, a little bit leaner, a little bit faster. There's always somebody that has more of what you want. And she's feeling discouraged for various reasons. But at the same time, she was very thankful for social media because it's how we met. So we met through the podcast. She got to learn more about me through Instagram. She reached out and she said she'd been following me for like 6 months or so at that point. But she reached out and she's very grateful, and we're enjoying the time that we're getting to work together. And she's making more progress in different areas than she thought she never would. So she wants to eventually do an aesthetic competition. And she started younger, like very skinny. And she thought, like, every time she ever tried to lift weights, every time she tried to eat, she just felt like she got fat. So it was cool and exciting and new for her to learn that she could achieve her goals. So she's very thankful for social media. But yet also she feels very depressed and discouraged by social media. And that's interesting. We were just kind of chit-chatting, and one of the things I said was I was kind of lucky that when I started working out, there wasn't social media. We didn't get internet for a whole year at my house until after I was already started working out. And then at that time, there was no Facebook or, Instagram or anything like that. So you weren't as exposed to other people who had everything you wanted. seemingly. And that's a huge note there to make, seemingly. But when I was younger, there's no social media, so I was just grinding away at my workouts. The only comparisons I had were like my local friends, like my friends in high school. And to me, it felt more rare to accomplish what I was working for. It didn't seem common, to be six-pack abs, super lean, but bigger muscles, and wanting to be stronger, and all the lifts and things. I was around athletes all the time. I actually quit all sports when I was a senior just so I could work out. So I worked out with the football team, worked out with the track team, but I never actually was on the teams. So I just wanted to work out. And it was really awesome. The coaches were very kind and let me kind of join because I was always hyper-focused and brought training plans, and I was almost like an assistant coach in a sense, where I was excited to be there, and it was definitely not a distraction in any way for me to be there. So when I looked around my friends, there was, there might be somebody who was lean, but they didn't have big muscles. There was somebody who was strong, but they were kind of chubby. There was more of reality that people have some things you want, but they don't have some things you want. And that's part of also being more in touch with those people. You get to see the reality of that person. So yeah, they might be super strong, but they're kind of an a-hole. And you're like, well, I don't want to be strong and an a-hole. So you don't kind of put them up on this pedestal at all, because you see the flaws as well as seeing the kind of the better parts of the person as well. So since what I wanted felt more rare, it seemed like it was more like I was unaware that I was accepting this, but it was more acceptable that it was going to take a lot of work, it was going to take a lot of time, take a lot of effort, and the grinding component of it seemed to make sense because no one really had what I wanted, so I was going to have to work harder than everyone. So it kind of, it felt odd, but being exposed to less helped me because it made it seem more rare, and therefore it was more willing to work harder, deeper, stronger, do all the grinding and work for it. Because, if I wanted something that it didn't seem like anybody else had, I had to work harder than everybody else did. Now, with social media, and this is what the client and I were talking about, is everything looks more common. It's just, it looks like everybody has what you want. And then it raises this feeling internally of, if I don't have it, well, then what's wrong with me? If I can go on social media, from her perspective, if I can go on social media and find what seems like 1,000 women that have the glutes I want, the thighs I want, the stomach I want, that has the overall body shape, and they seem to be happy in all their photos, and they don't seem to struggle with anything. Why am I struggling so much? Why don't I have those body parts, even though I'm working so hard and I'm eating so dedicated? So it's just, it's very challenging because you start to believe that everyone has what you want. So what's wrong with you? Why don't you have it if everyone else has it? And that's very challenging. So one of the things I was talking to her is when I went to the Arnold Classic. I got to go to the Arnold Classic a couple times, and I helped a friend compete in the Arnold Classic. Actually, I did that 2 different times. I helped people compete in the Arnold Classic. And they have 5,000 sporting events there. So it wasn't IFBB Pro. But we went up there a couple times as just a touristy person wanting to walk around, a couple times helping people with coaching and stuff. And it's interesting. And I'm going to be a little I don't know if this is insensitive, but I'm just going to say it how it is. Now that's how I perceive it to be. So not how it is in I know everything. But when you go to the Arnold, it's the Arnold Classic. It is the Super Bowl. I know the Olympia is the actual Super Bowl of bodybuilding, but the Arnold Classic's pretty damn close. I mean, it's Super Bowl number 2. So it's the big thing, the big thing. And you would think, okay, if I'm going to a fitness convention that's international, people from all over the world come to this thing. Everyone's going to be in great, amazing shape. But then you go to the Arnold and you walk around and you go, okay, not everybody's in shape. You're like, well, that person, you can tell they probably go to the gym because they're wearing an animal cut-off tank top, but I don't know if any rest of them makes it look like they go to the gym. And not that you're judging people, but it did strike me the first time I went. because I always see myself as skinny fat. I was skinny fat when I was younger. I was 165 pounds when I graduated high school, but I had fat rolls on my stomach. I had no visible veins. It's taken me forever to get any amount of muscle and size on me. I still feel like I'm skinny fat, even though I'm like 275 and you can kind of see my abs. I still feel like a skinny fat kid because that's the way I grew up. So I went to the Arnold assuming that I was going to look like absolute crap. And people are going to be like, what the hell is this kid doing there? You know, that kind of thing. So when I went there and I was like, okay, there are other people that look like me. Like, oh, okay, this isn't too bad. Like, oh, I guess I don't stick out like a sore thumb. You know, so I realized, okay, not everybody at the Arnold is in amazing shape. There's a lot of people in amazing shape, but not everybody. And that was comforting. I was like, okay, cool. You know, that's good to know. And that's something that I think is important to keep in mind, is even if you went to a place where you would think everyone was going to be in shape, not everybody's in shape. So it's not as common as what social media makes it out to be. And that's if we went to a place where it was like you would assume everyone's in good shape. What if we just went to what if we went to Walmart? Do we associate Walmart with people with six-pack abs? No, probably like six-pack of beer, you know, that kind of thing. But if we go to regular life and we just look around regular life, it's not as common as what social media makes it out to be. Social media nowadays, like when you I coach a lot of powerlifters, and a 700-pound deadlift almost feels like, why even post it anymore? Because people are deadlifting like 800, 900. There's people doing sumo of 1,000 pounds now, and it just seems more commonplace to lift what would be quite quote unquote lighter weights. Like I busted my freaking butt to get to like a 600-pound squat, 700-pound deadlift, over 400-pound bench press. But those numbers, like if you throw them out on social media, it kind of feels like people are going to go, oh, yeah, good for you. And then they just keep scrolling. It's like, oh, soul crushing. So it's very, very, very challenging to balance what we see with social media versus what reality is. Now, there are great and amazing benefits to social media. I enjoy them every day. You know, you get to learn from great people. Like I watch like Squat University, his page, Jailhouse Strong, back when John Meadows was still alive, Mountain Dog One. Loved all that stuff. And I read things, I look at things all the time. It's amazing exposure. Amazing exposure to see what's out there in the world. You know, like YouTube, if we expand social media out of Instagram and we get into like YouTube, I remember like when Mark Bell started his YouTube channel, I've watched every single video from Mark Bell's channel because there was so much education in it. I watched Travis Bachmeyer from Smashworks to learn how to do like different type of like mobility drills and how to take care of people with small injuries and annoyances. I watched over 1,000 videos from his channel. Kelly Starrett, I bought both of his books. Becoming a Supple Leopard, Stuart McGill, bought all of his books. I mean, I would not have known of these people and this knowledge if it wasn't for social media. So social media can expose us to so much great stuff, so many resources, so many people that we wouldn't normally be able to talk to. That's amazing. You know, I've watched every interview from Louis Simmons. I literally don't think there's ever been a interview on YouTube that I have not seen from Louis Simmons. So this is all I do. Like when I'm eating food, I watch lifting and nutrition videos. It's everything I do, even when I'm not with clients. I just love it. I love it. So the benefits of social media is there's just tons of knowledge. And then also there can be a sense of community, a sense of support, a sense of not feeling alone. If you're struggling with something, you can find through social media other people who've struggled with similar things, if not the exact same thing. And that can give you a sense of hope. You know, a sense of place in the world. Okay, I'm not alone. There are other people that are like me. And that could be awesome. You know, my mom's part of the group Old Ladies Lift on Facebook, and that's just fun to have women, I don't even know what the age group is, like say 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There's women lifting weights in their 80s and 90s. It's badass. And it's so awesome that they have a community where they can share videos and encourage each other. It's just amazing. It's wonderful. So it is really, really cool that social media exposes us and gives us connection with people we'd never otherwise be able to do that with. And whether that's with knowledge or whether that's a sense of community and support. So social media, I'm a big fan of it. I think it's freaking awesome. I love it. Now, are there aspects that can be negative if not controlled well? You freaking betcha. Just like everything else in life. Golly. Everything in life to the extreme can have issues. So I definitely would not be one to propose getting rid of social media, just because of the negative side effects. Because if you just control the negative side effects, you get all these insane benefits that you can't get otherwise. So some aspects that I try to control and what I encourage clients to control when it comes to social media is, number one, not everything you see is true. And that sucks. That is just, it's so sad that people flat out lie on social media. They'll take a crap ton of drugs, like the Liver King guy, takes a ton of drugs, but then he was selling supplements to tell people to eat a certain diet, saying like he was doing this all totally natural. And it's like, well, just, either do it natural or take the drugs and then don't preach about not taking drugs. Just don't lie. So frustrating. Because what I can't stand about it is when people lie about things, is other people are going to think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I achieve the same thing even though I work so hard? And they're going to think something's wrong with them. And they're not. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not taking all the same drugs and doing all the bullshit lies. I've seen trainer, I know of a trainer that posted 1 month transformations and the clients were actually 3-month photos. Total bullshit, right? This trainer used 3-month comparison photos and then advertised them as 1 month transformations. Total bullshit. Oh, so frustrating. So, one of the ways I battle that is that not everything is true. Is if I see something, I'm like, oh, that seems unlikely. I wonder how they did that. I'll try to find a bunch of things to compare it to, and if I can find 10 comparisons and 7 of the 10 have the same thing, then I know that's probably the truth. If 1 out of the 10 or 2 out of the 10 seem to be this extreme and no one else seems to match it, then it's probably a big fat lie. It's probably not true. So, I tend to deep dive into stuff if I don't believe it to try to find the truth by finding it through comparison and greater education on the concepts. Another thing you want to work to control is not to compare yourself to others, but to compare yourself to yourself. So one of my favorite stories of this is there was a guy, I can't remember the exact numbers, so I'm hesitant to give his name, but I think he was a powerlifting coach. The first squat he ever did in competition, and he did college sports. He was a shot putter, and he went to a powerlifting meet, was in Nike sneakers, which you should not be squatting in, by the way. So not in a powerlifting competition. So he did his first squat, I think it was 650 pounds. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me, So then he works for 5-10 years, becomes famous, and the best squat I think he did was maybe 850, 900. Now that's impressive, but 650 to 850 isn't as big of a jump as maybe somebody who, graduated high school, they had the same age, and maybe their first ever squat, they got buried under 315. So then all of a sudden they work their butt off and they get up to, 500 pounds or 600 pounds. How is that any less impressive than the person that goes from 650 to 850? I've worked with clients and people, I've worked with so many people over the years, that one of the things I love that I've gotten to see is that some people have worked so damn hard for something that might never impress anyone else. But what I love about it is they stayed within themselves, they know how far they've come, and they are healthier mentally and emotionally for it. Yeah, there's physical benefits, but the mental and emotional benefit is the amazing part. They feel more confident with who they are. They feel more confident with what they can achieve. So they don't get enough recognition. from other people, because no one would see the struggle they put in. They just see the end result. So if the end result of one person is a 600-pound squat, the end result of another person is an 800-pound squat, we just assume the 800-pound person, works harder and they're stronger. That's often not true. That's sometimes true, for sure. Sometimes not. You have to correlate body weight. You have to correlate where somebody started. Not everybody starts in the same place. So some people started further ahead than other people. And what they had to do and deal with through the process. So it's impossible to compare outcomes between different people because you don't know what the journey was. You don't know where they started. You don't know what they had to deal with during the process. So if one person goes from A to B and another person goes from A to B, you still can't compare that because you don't know what happened in the meantime. So I really, really, really encourage people to compare to your older self. You can use other people as references. I've talked a little bit about that. You want to kind of know what's good, right? So you have to look at what other people do, find out what is like an impressive number out of that, and then you're like, okay, impressive number, impressive physique, impressive change, whatever it may be. But you can use other people to kind of get as a reference. How fast should I be losing fat? How fast should I be building muscle? How fast can I get stronger? That's why we do studies. They do collegiate studies and all these crazy-ass scientific studies and research, and it's off of other people, and then we extrapolate that to the general population. So we're used to using other people as references. We just don't want to compare ourselves to other people. We don't want to determine our value based on what somebody else did, right? And then the last thing to remember is that success isn't as common as it appears. Certainly not on social media. Everybody's fighting a battle. Everybody has some kind of shit in their life that they're trying to deal with. So it's just universal. So if we're struggling, but we don't see other people struggle, that doesn't mean that something's wrong with us and we're the only ones struggling. We're just not seeing their struggle. It's not that it's not there. Not everybody posts their struggles. Some people do, and that's how they cope with it. That's how they find motivation, and that's how they support other people. But not everybody posts their, struggles, and that's okay. You got to do, you don't owe it to anybody. You just do what's best for you, So one of the things that does make you believe, though, when you look at social media is if so many people seem to be accomplishing what you want to accomplish, it can make it seem like there's something wrong with you, that you haven't achieved it yet. Now again, you don't know where they started, you don't know what they've had to go through in their journey, so maybe they had an easier road than you've had, so it's a little bit slower for you. But a big thing to remember is that success isn't as common as it appears. And why that's important to know is just because you see 30, 40 people on your Instagram feed that all look amazing and in shape, you're not seeing the 30, 40 million that aren't. So, number one, don't compare yourself to other people. Number two, not everything you see is true, and I think I flip-flopped those. But number three is that if it looks like everybody else is doing it and you can't, just take a step back. Go to Walmart. That kind of thing. Look around. And I definitely do not mean to put others down. So like I said, when I went to Arnold, I thought I was going to be like the only skinny fat person there. And it made me feel better to realize that, okay, there's some other people who have a ways to go as well, and that was helpful. So what I'm saying is that success, just because you're not successful now doesn't mean anything's wrong with you, doesn't mean you're going slow, doesn't mean you can't achieve it. It just, you see other people achieving things and say, okay, if somebody else can do it, then I can too. Because what did they just ate a certain way, they trained a certain way, and they did it for a certain length of time. So if I can figure out a way to eat healthy that matches my lifestyle, if I can figure out a way to train that matches my goals and my lifestyle, and I can be consistent with it for long enough, then I can achieve that as well. If somebody else can do it, so can I. My dad, he's pretty handy. He's good with his hands, good with fixing things. And one of the things him and I always talked about is when I was younger and he would be trying to figure out something. So say our lawn mower broke. my dad would try to figure it out and fix it. And he's like, well, if another man can put it together, so can I. You know, and that was his mindset. And I loved that mindset was, if somebody else did it, why can't I do it? And I'm like, hell yeah. You know, I love that. If somebody else can do it, so can I. I don't know what their journey was. I don't know where they started. I don't know what resources they had. So all of that may look different for me. So my timeline might look different. Maybe even the degree of success might look different. But I can still be successful. Okay? So for that client, we talked it out, and we kind of set our goals and different things. But you have to find for yourself, is in partaking in social media is helpful because it exposes you to knowledge, it exposes you to community, to support, to great information. But you do want to find ways to control it. You know, if you feel like you're getting a negative response to social media, maybe you want to stop following certain accounts, maybe limits how much social media time you spend, maybe only follow accounts that seem supportive and motivational or informational. And then just recognize again that not everything you see is true. Don't compare yourself to other people, compare yourself to yourself, you know, your older self. And success isn't as common as it appears. Okay. Well, I hope that helps, just kind of talking it through, you know, so if it's something you've struggled with or thought about, it's nice to know you're not alone. So if you have any questions, if there's anything you want to follow up with, just let me know. My email is brutalironjim@gmail.com. I'm always here and I'm always happy to help. If you like today's podcast, please share the podcast. If the podcast has been helpful in your life, please tell others how so that way they can understand how it might benefit them. Just let people know that the podcast exists and that it's totally free and they can ask any question they want. Super helpful. Thank you to those who donate to support the podcast so we can actually continue to do that. There are high hosting costs and other costs related, so I appreciate the financial support. You can donate on our website, www.brutalironjim.com, even just $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you can give. It helps a lot, and that way I can just keep this thing going and we can keep helping people. Also, if you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us under the name Brutal Iron Jim on Instagram and YouTube. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.